Now let's take care of the orchestral buildup.
Reaching greatness, relentless, you survive.
This guy definitely will need to be compressed, and I'm telling you why.
You survive. They never lose.
If we turn it down,
You survive.
it's no more there, and it's a little bit too loud when it's right here.
You survive. They never lose hope when everything.
But how do we deal with this if an instrument is too loud, but we want it to be present in the mix? Of course, as we applied already, compression. So we'll go into the compressor and you can see how big of the peak it is. I don't want to get too in depth into these concepts, etc. But if you're not sure when you should do stuff like this, definitely check out the mixing course. That way we are also making a lot of headroom, right? So now it's there. Still there, but just we can equally feel it, but we are not overwhelmed by that instrument. We could also add some reverb to it. Let's maybe use the convolver and take the presets. These guys we can also compress. So we are just keeping the dynamics controlled. Alright, these guys, let's EQ a little bit. So I'm not a fan recently of adding reverb to everything, since, for example, in this marimba, it's like not necessary, but we feel a little bit of the space there. And actually this build-up is very, very packed already. That's why it's not that necessary to add reverb here to every instrument. But for example, in this marimba, it would just feel too dry, like feel like somebody recorded it with their phone. That's why I'm adding that. Same thing happens with this snare. You can add any reverb here, it doesn't really matter. Could be plate. Plate just adds a little bit more of the high end. Let's add another insert here. So we can route all of those guys here. And after that, here. So we have this bass with take care of assigning all of them to mixer tracks. And now let's compress them all together so we have more power and more dynamics are. And now let's add again the mid-side EQ. And we are cutting again the lows from the mid-side. There are a lot of them there, so as you might remember, last time I had this plug guitar turned off. That's why, because I had some issues with the MIDIs. Let's just fix that quickly now. This crash, let's compress as well since it's too loud. Subtle like this. Let's add Fruity Balance on the whole group and we'll automate the volume of there to go down. Right, this guys also let's compress a little bit so this really high peak doesn't get through that much. And we can now just bump the volume up of the whole thing. Alright, cool. Now I hear it already. Let's add equalizer on the whole master track. And we'll automate that to make powerful drop. You might ask why, but I think that sure, if you are taking out the low frequencies, the frequencies that are making the power of the whole song, if we are taking them out just before the drop, and when they come right on the drop, again, it makes the illusion that they hit harder, of course. That's why we're doing that. Alright, nice. Let's leave it for now and copy it again also before the second drop. Let's make these guys unique and take down, I'm scrolling down with my mouse like this gradually. And then the snare like that. The second snare like that as well. All right, should be good. All right, let's also group both of them like that. So we can again make this slope and here as well. Go gradually like that. So we just wash them out from the whole song. Perfect. All right.
Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause
Exactly like this. So we are gently fading out those guys to make the transition smoother.
oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never.
All right. Sounds pretty good already on the orchestral thing, but we are lacking a lot of the stereo widening aspect of mixing. And we'll get into it more in the drop, but we've already done it a lot in the main chords. For example, with the pancakes here, that adds a lot of this thing. Also, the chords here were detuned a lot in the serum themselves. So we also used their hyperdimension tool. That's why the chords are already pretty wide. But here in the build-up, what's a really cool trick is putting the guitars in the stereo. As you can hear, they are completely in mono. That's why I will just go and apply Ozone Imager second. And that's a completely free tool that you should definitely have in your library. We'll stereoize it. Let's say about here. Now it's starting to add a lot of quality, this guitar plug. Although now you can hear that we have a lot of stereo low end. That's why we'll need to cut it again with the patcher. Patcher in mid-side EQ is something I use constantly. If you have a different EQ, such as FabFilter, you can definitely use it, of course. We could also boost a little bit of the high end.
You survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. You survive. They never lose hope when everything's
A lot of happening there, but it still lacks this guitar when I turn it off.
They never lose hope when everything's cold.
Alright, the thing is now, in this orchestral build-up, we have a lot of low end everywhere. In this, we can even high pass this guy here. Just to make sure we are not mudding up the mix. And then this transition sounds pretty nice, but this we could maybe cut everything from the sub bass right here to not mess up it with everything else that we have there. For example, we have the bass that is playing, and we definitely would not want two sub frequencies at one time. Also, the organs have them, but not that much to interference with bass. Not much, but the whole body of the brass is right here. So just do it like this.
You survive.
Now we can even turn it up a little bit.
You survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause
We are getting pretty smooth right here. let's just cut like this so you make sure that there's no sub frequencies right here, because also the impact here has a lot of sub frequencies. Although I designed it carefully, so it has a lot of sub bass at the very first couple of seconds, and then it goes away into the bass frequencies.
Survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and
Alright, there are a couple of things that are overwhelming the vocal a little bit. Let's just make a couple of those guys unique.
never die. Legends never die. When the legends never die. When the world is calling you, die. When the world is die. When the world is calling you, can you hear? You survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause
Alright, that sounds pretty nice already. Let's now focus on the acapella itself. We can hear and we can see that there are a lot of unnecessary bumps here, which would work definitely in the original that this vocal was playing to, right? The original was pretty dynamic and it was definitely not that much electronic, and it could have those dynamics and those peaks all over the place. But I'm not sure if I really wanted to this track. It doesn't really feel right. Here's a little bit too many peaks here. This one, it could be a little bit more controlled, as well as here in the intro, it's a little bit too quiet. That's why let's go and take care of it. It's also not mixed yet at all, in the drop I mean. So let's see what we can do.
legends never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear?
We have a balance here already, so let's make automation out of the volume, and maybe we can make a little bit of the bump from the beginning of the track. Do it like this, not much.
Legends never die. When the world is calling you, can you hear them screaming out your name?
It's literally 1.5 dB.
Die. They become a part of you. Every time you play for reaching greatness, relentless, you survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never die.
Alright, so I made a limiter in order to get rid of the very high peaks here and there. That's nothing too extreme, of course, because the vocal is already compressed, etc. If you want to learn how to mix vocals in style of the original track of this, you can definitely get inspired and see how the vocal, like the professional compressed vocal, should look like. It's not compressed like crazy, and in the drop is of course way louder and stuff, since that is already a processed vocal, it's not a dry one. When we are doing like hard-hitting electronic music, it's not a bad idea to squash the vocals with limiter, maybe not limiter, but to apply hard compression to the vocals. You need to find your unique style and how you would like your vocals to sound. So I'm just taking a little bit from the very peaks.
Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never die.
Right, after that I've already applied EQ, and we get rid of the very lows like that, let's say.
Never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die, they become a part of you.
It's a little bit too
Every time you
quiet.
play for reaching greatness, relentless, you survive. They never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their bones, they'll ride into smoke when the fire is fierce. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause out calling you. Can you hear them scream?
Okay, she has not enough compressed vocals, for example. In this moment, we can pump it up.
Calling you. Can you hear them screaming?
Like that.
Can you hear them screaming?
Usually, making the automation out of the volume of the vocal is a good idea.
Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die, they become a part of you. Every time you play for reach you. Every time you play for reaching you. Every time you play for reaching greatness, relentless, you survive. They never lose hope when
So the balance is what matters right now. We try to keep the volume through the track pretty equal, so we don't have to turn down the volume while listening to the track down to hear it better, and then on the drop lower because it's too loud, right? That's quite important. Just make sure you're hearing lyrics equally here, equally there if any, and of course in different parts of the song. I thought maybe let's not use the limiter for compressing the vocals, but let's use a little bit of the compression, let's say like higher, 7.
they never lose hope when everything's cold and the fighting's near. It's deep in their
So we're just making sure that there are no weird peaks like this, for example, exactly this one. We are making sure that there's nothing like that. All right, so we cut a little bit from the lows, so we make sure that there's no sub, etc.
'cause legends never
We can make double by using extra low cut here.
stop, 'cause
All right, and again, I would try maybe to use Patcher in mid-side EQ mode to get rid of the lows from the sides.
can you hear them scream?
Listen how much of the actual headroom and how much of the muddiness we take out. As soon as we did this, I cannot imagine not making this side EQ. Right? Now let's hear how it sounds. Here in this moment, do not make it repetitive like that. Let's do a cool patch in Patcher again. And we load some room reverb. You can use any reverb, for example, Fruity Convolver or the preset from our pack. I'll use Valhalla Room just to hear how it would sound. Let's set the mix 100%, decay as low as possible. And after that, we'll add equalizer. With these settings, we'll take the most harsh low cut and most harsh high cut and set it around here. And let's automate it quickly. like that.
Can you hear that sound?
Let's maybe automate the mix, not the mute solo. We'll need to go to patterns and delete this one. And let's make right, nice. And now let's just copy it again here. We can turn up the volume right here, and it sounds pretty nice. You can use any reverb, and as the course said that we are using no third-party plugins, doesn't make too much of the difference. So let's add Fruity Reverb. Very small room, a little bit more of the low cut, no decay, no dry. Doesn't make too much difference between this reverb and Valhalla Room, so you are free to use any reverb you like. Of course, the project file without any third-party plugins, but Serum is available in the course downloads as well. Alright, so let's stay a little bit more in the vocals, and how could we make it even more powerful? That sounds pretty nice, but what we could definitely do is add some stereo widening to it. So let's open Ozone Imager, which is free as we said already, and put it of course behind the parametric EQ and definitely before the mid-side EQ. So you're not putting again the frequencies from mono to stereo. Let's widen it a little bit.
Can you hear that sound?
Let's try automating this width knob. And let's go here from 50%. So we don't do anything.
Can you hear that sound?
You can hear how big of a difference already is. In the whole mix, it will make a lot of work. Alright, there are some problems with the automations here, but we'll take care of it soon. Let's copy it again until it drops second. Alright, that sounds pretty nice already. The thing is that on the drop there are a lot of elements. Let's listen to everything without the vocal. The bass is taking a lot of frequencies, the chords as well. So in the acapella here, we definitely need it, of course, but if we see how much of the frequencies it's taking, it's basically taking everything. That's why let's think of if we could cut everything really, really high in order just to check if it can make more space in our mix. Let's automate this thing so it goes exactly to this moment from 0 like that. So anyway, we got rid of everything from the sides, of course, right from this moment. But on the drop, it's sometimes cool to cut everything higher than you think in order to not make our drop muddy. That thing we have way less muddy mix because of that. So that's how you could make a little bit more space in the drop for your whole track. Let's cut it here. Maybe let's even make transition like this. So after that, let's hear how it sounds with and without it. So we make a lot of space, but also we are cutting a lot of the body of it. Maybe we could go a little bit lower. Something like this. Alright, that's a lot better in my opinion. Now let's take care of the chords. Let's first apply EQ and cut everything from the very lows. Way less muddy already, and after that let's do some surgical EQing. You for sure know it already after our mixing course. We just search for harsh frequencies and take them down a little bit. Just a little bit from there. We'll talk about a different way to do that in a second. And now we could also automate the low pass like this, down. Same thing here, why not? Alright, we'll get into that part later. Next thing we can do is add some stereo rewidening to the bass. And as funny as that sounds, we'll do it with frequency splitter. If you'll go to Patcher, you can go and apply Maximus, open it, and adjust the bands here if necessary. I don't want to adjust anything, so I'll just drag and drop it 3 times like this, and I'll hit solo on every each, marking mids here, lows here, and highs here. Now let's drag them all like this, and on this guy here, we'll apply Ozone Imager like that. So unfortunately my Ozone Imager doesn't want to work, so I'll have to use this Ozone Imager 8 that I have here, which is exactly what we are doing right now. So if you have Ozone Imager, you would simply go and add a couple of bands and just stereo widen this one, so we're not affecting any other. And that's exactly what we are doing here. This is our low band, mid band, and high band. And what you will do is just put 3 maxims like this and put Imager second here, or you could also use this FL Native plugin, which is called Fruity Stereo Enhancer, although it can screw up your phases. That's why I would not really encourage you to do it. Definitely use the Ozone Imager second if possible. So I'm just going to put it like this, since we anyway have it only on high end, let's put it like this. As you can see, and as you can hear, we are putting the very high band fully in the stereo. If you would use the stereo enhancer, it will work pretty weird. That's why I'll just use the Ozone Imager here. Your Ozone Imager second should work in here. If it doesn't, you can also use the enhancer. Here we can also tell it how much of the high end we want. Pretty convenient. And I hear that we can also automate the low cut on the master channel also here. Alright, here this moment is very, very empty. Let's quickly add new track, call it 808 fill. We'll do it here, and let's add some 808 from our sample pack. This one is perfect. Let's add some distortion to it. Pretty nice. And let's open piano roll. So like this. Let's definitely cut everything from the lows. Let's add limiter. And let's quickly automate also the panning of it, so make it a little bit more interesting. Let's also double the wave shaper to make it even more distorted. And cut it after that. Also here. Don't forget to make it unique before changing anything. Right, on the bass again, we can apply EQ and automate the low pass. Making EQ automations out of the low cut on the master channel before the breakdown and in the middle of the drop is a really nice way to keep things interesting and not make people feel they have enough of the bass. And we definitely don't want them have enough of the bass, of course. Great.
Down five, down five.
This EQ automation here and there, everywhere is very, very crucial.
Down five, legends never die. Legends never.
Nice. All right, I hear now that we should definitely add a reverb in this exact point, so we can blur it out. So let's add convolver and use the preset that we have here. We'll automate the mix knob. So we gently blur it out. All right, that's the point when we are getting into the drums mixing. As you could see, throughout the whole song, we didn't do much to the drums, and that's thanks to the samples. We didn't have to tweak the snares for them to sound good. We just pre-delayed them, and they by themselves sounded great. So, of course, when it comes to drums, the sample selection is the very, very utmost important case. That's why we have this sample pack, of course, but we always need to mix them by themselves. They need some bass processing usually. We can decide after that if we want this guy. I would like to compress a little bit this snare, since it's very, very picky. Let's make it just a little bit here. Kick here in this track actually fits really, really well. Even though it's not that interesting kick by itself, in the track it sits really, really well. What I usually like to do on the drum bass is add some distortion. A lot of people use soft clipper. I would like to use the fast distortion though. And we'll take the threshold down. And there we heal a little bit of the distortion, and after that we'll go with the mix down. It adds some grittiness to the sound. After that, let's add through the compressor. We'll take the threshold down a lot, ratio up a lot. Until you hear this clicks. And now we'll just gain match it. Something like this is alright. And now we'll go down with the mix. Let's hear how it sounds.
Legends never
As you can see, it doesn't really fit here. It would definitely help in house genre, but if we set it to just a solid amount like this, we can get a little bit of the click out. We could also use Transient Shaper to do it, but that way I think we have a little bit more control. Before and after. The drums sounds like they are more glued together, and that's what we wanted to achieve here. We can always put the limiter on the master channel, not in order to limit it, but in order to just look at the waveform. Alright, that's pretty nice, and the drums are definitely getting through the whole mix, and they are quite more glued and powerful right now. We didn't have to do too much. As you can see, we didn't even process the kick, because in my opinion it sounds great by itself already. You for sure will usually have to adjust the EQ of the kick to make it fit your track, but this kick drum fits it great. Alright, now let's definitely apply EQ on this whole bass, and we'll cut it gently on this part. As well as the low cut. Seems right. We can also cut it just from the snare. Like this. Remember, the rule of thumb is if you feel like something should be automated, do it. Wise man said. We should also automate the overall volume of this thing. Yeah, I knew what's up. Can add some sweeps here. Also, you can make this one unique and, for example, reverse it and do it like this. We could use some reverse effect here again.
Bye.
here we should definitely make something different with the drums so they are not hitting as hard since it's after the drop, and we should make them a little bit more soft. So we could do it with just compressing them a little bit. We'll use very high threshold, I mean the low threshold, and very low ratio. So we are taking all the drums and not only those who are very, very loud. Right? Perfect, that's exactly what we wanted here. So let's automate the mix or the mute. I like sometimes the mix since the mute can sometimes screw up and we can have some clicking, and definitely that's not something we want. As you can see, we are at this point in production that we are taking care of really small things, for example here. So it's gently transitioning, of course. We can turn on our megaphone effect right here. We could also automate a little bit of the volume here.
Legends never die.